I'm going to fill 30 seconds with a road sign I saw today. I can fill 30 seconds with a road sign.
Okay. I'm not desperate to fill 30 seconds.
Well,
I'm desperate to fill 30 minutes.
This is 30 seconds in the bag that you don't have to worry about.
Okay. Go on then.
What now?
Why not?
So I came a slightly different route because I mixed my routes up because I'm a maverick.
Yeah.
That's how I...
Is that why you're an hour late?
I was 7 minutes late, as per.
Did you set off an hour early?
I came a different way.
Yeah.
Because I don't care.
You're just off the chain.
Yeah. And there was a sign and it said, kill your speed, not the workforce.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realise there was a choice.
Very good.
But there is the humorous side, but there's also, what fucking stupid.
Yeah, it's thank God for that sign. I was literally that guy in the high-vis jacket was right in my sights.
Yeah.
That was going to be 50 points.
Yeah, it's like it was like I saw something. It's just reminded me. I saw a little thing on some social media today. It said 2 people in a restaurant, and the vegan said, "I'll have the salad, please, but no nuts."
Yeah,
and their partner said it didn't say there were nuts on the menu.
Yeah,
and she said, "Well, I'm just being safe because I'm allergic." And then the waiter took his order. He said, "I'll have a steak, but no bees."
No peas.
No bees. Oh. Well, I should have used wasps, shouldn't I? And he said, "I'll have a steak, but no wasps." Because obviously he's allergic. Just keep the road sign on him.
Oh, because he's allergic to wasp stings.
Yes.
Right, it's good that. Yeah, like, sorry. I'm gonna need some warming up, as you can tell.
Yeah. Well, that's a minute done anyway, if you keep them both in. Less to worry about. Come on, let's go. Get some music.
All right, I'm about to. Hello and welcome to episode 68 of I'm Fine, a chat between myself, Damo, and someone who's finally got the scar they've always wanted. Oh, at last, Mark. It's a chat around the subjects of health, wealth, well-being, fitness, censorship and societal decay. We're all decaying, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's actually there's quite beautiful about that, actually.
Well, back to the wabi-sabi, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was all on the decline, aren't we? I think we just got to just embrace that and just find the beauty in bits falling off.
In the last few days.
We'll come back to that in a minute. We're all work in progress, and this podcast is no exception. In short, it's a poke at our perfectly imperfect lives. And if we can make just one person feel like they're not alone in all this madness, then our work here is done. Make sure you subscribe to us. Make sure do you subscribe to us, Mark?
I'll check.
No, you bet you bloody don't. And follow us on the socials by searching for I'm Finecast. And please do drop us an email at imfinecast@gmail.com. It's been a bit dry this week, so don't all rush, but rush.
Yeah. I just listening to because I have to now by contract.
Oh, you're not saying that bloody. No, you're not mentioning it again.
SMA. I'll call it SMA because I'm that popular. They've got 18,000 5-star Apple reviews, which
good
is
for them.
No, I'm going to say it's more than we've got.
Yeah. How many more, Mark? Do you want to see as your maths man?
I'd say 17,987.
Yeah. Coming up in this episode, we've just been discussing this off mic. So warm up and stretch. Got our usual catch up and bookmarks. A reflection on the last pod and the week's highlights and lowlights. Work-life ballet. We will be starting to look more closely at mental health as we delve deeper into borderline personality disorder and other
associated. Yeah,
we were just kind of having a chat about how we kind of structure that. But I think, well, you're confident it'll sort itself out.
Yeah, I am.
I'm sitting here getting all sweaty bums. Just the kind of state of the nation is enough to kind of start with, isn't it? Just state of the bloody world right now.
I think, yeah,
it's a right old mess.
And I think there's sometimes reassurance.
Well, we've been told it is. That's the kind of confusion. We might even come to dig a bit more into it. But do you know what I mean? It's that like, you just come in and said all this stuff. I'm like, I don't even know where to start with that, Mark. I don't even know if it's a thing to worry about, if I need to look into it or not.
I think it's become a conveyor belt that the news...
There's a million sides almost to everything, isn't there?
Yeah. The fear-mongering that's happened is that just nobody knows what the fuck's going on anymore.
I think that's probably where we'll start.
And I think it was... Ballet. Yeah, I think it was... I might be wrong on this. I got a feeling it was President Truman who said, if you can't convince them, confuse them. And this was done on an economic subject matter. But I think that's what's happening at the moment, that the powers that be, if they can't convince us that X, Y, and Z is what's good for us, then they'll send out so many messages that they'll get that end result by just sheer confusion. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that in work-life ballet.
Cool.
And see where we go with that.
My enthusiasm will carry on. You don't get this often.
Because I asked you what I was going to do in brain food. You went, don't worry about that, Damo, I've got this. So, positive comment here.
Mm-hmm. Do you need any
That's
help?
what it says.
Yeah. Do you need any help with this one?
No.
Okay. Shoot.
Mark, you're looking well, even considering you've been opened up and closed again this week.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank God you're alive. There you are. It's a positive comment.
Yeah.
Nice to see you breathing.
Yeah, I'm pleased I'm breathing. Yeah, the operation was successful. I was open and closed, and apart from the ravages that my cock's undergone for a few days.
I'm not sure where you were going to go with this.
Just there.
Right, okay. I think that's probably is enough for everybody.
It isn't going to be on Insta.
Right. No.
No.
Well,
it might be desperate for viewers, but...
Yeah, but we've discussed this yesterday in training. You gave me the warts and all description of your experience in hospital. Because I said it was going to be keyhole surgery, didn't I? Yeah. And that the fact you wouldn't get a scar. But much to your delight, the doctor kind of took one look at you and went, you're going to get a scar, right? She must have been made up, knowing how much you wanted a scar. Yeah. But thanks for showing me the scar yesterday. Yeah. And it's in a place where I could have got a lot more than a bargain for. So thanks for being careful. And after what you told me, it looked like I'm glad I didn't see it.
You didn't want to go any.
No, it would have put me off. It would have put me off aubergines for life. Is that right?
Exactly. But I have got a good scar, and it was funny. The nurses there was 4 of us in the ward, and one nurse, the nurse who was talking about her sex life a lot during the downtime, came round and looked at everyone's scars and was basically rating them.
All right.
As if like he's had a we said this didn't we in training. No, not against each other, but right. The surgeon's done well today. As if I think on other days
he's had a good day.
Yeah, I think early in the week, like you said, was
he's not called Wobbly Willis for nothing, right? Yeah, it was pretty neat. I mean, mine's kind of like almost at a right angle compared to yours, but scar that is. So that's really neat. I think you're going to be chuffed with that.
Yeah, I might target it a bit more to make it a bit.
Well, I did say
more like a sort of pirate scar.
Yeah, that was so neat these days. It might just like a slight crease after a while, but I said to you want to put some aloe vera on that to kind of get rid of it, and you're like, no, Brillo
pad and bleach,
scuff it up a bit. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to accuse you of milking your kind of recovery, your aches and pains of your recovery.
Okay.
But
straight away on the defence.
Right. But in training yesterday, because you did send a note out to all of your clients, I was going to say patients, all of your clients saying, I'm a little bit sore. Yeah. I'm a bit stiff, so we're not going to be doing weights because I can't spot anyone or lift anything, right? And I thought, fair enough. I thought it'd be all right by the time I get there, but no, I get there, right? You're not doing a stitch. You're not doing anything, not even just standing there pointing, telling me to pick things up. Go there, do this, do that.
I was just going through Insta, wasn't I?
Yeah, I think you were loving it.
Rehearsing some TikToks.
I didn't mind doing it, but there was definitely a kind of...
Sort of power trip.
Yeah, there's definitely some enjoyment in your voice.
I'm calling you bitch all the time.
Yeah, that was unnecessary. But
I've just been sensible on that. I just thought...
For once.
Yeah.
Being sensible. No, it was a good idea. Yeah, it's a good idea. Last week, on the last pod, you regaled us with a very funny story about a dead cat. Yeah. To our good listeners and new listeners, do check it out, episode 67, Accountability Buddies, as it's tip-top. It's very funny.
Good.
Almost crashed the car listening to it.
I don't think I've actually listened back.
You haven't? It's very... Have you not?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, you've been busy, I suppose.
Yeah.
Have you not listened back to it? I thought you did.
I think I listened a bit. I didn't listen to that bit of the story, no.
Oh, that's very funny. So that story thread came from a Facebook public group called 50 Shades of Halifax. And for our international listeners, Halifax is in West Yorkshire, up north from here. That's how they say it there, isn't it? And it's famous for Halifax is famous for making wool, toffee, and particularly Rolos and Quality Street, which I didn't know. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the group name is inspired by the series of erotic novels by E.L. James. Initially a trilogy consisting of 50 Shades of Grey, 2011, 50 Shades Darker, 2012, and 50 Shades Freed. For those who have been stuck in a cave during the last decade, the series traces the deepening relationship. I know what it's about. The deepening relationship between college graduate Anastasia Steele and young businessman Christian Grey. Grey introduces Anna to the world of BDSM, which is bondage, discipline, sadism, and masochism.
Beating me with some chicken nuggets.
Oh, stop it.
Thick shake. Sorry.
So just like any well-run online community, there are some guidelines to follow to ensure safe and fair play within 50 Shades of Halifax.
Is this a quiz?
No.
Okay.
Life isn't a quiz, Mark.
No.
It's just just sit back and relax, because you've got
Just
plenty to do in a bit.
Yeah.
I'd like just to give you a rundown of the guidelines for the 50 Shades of Halifax group.
That's why I meant, was it a quiz? But you're just going to tell me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you want to guess the first one?
No.
Go on.
If you haven't planned a quiz.
Number 1.
No abusive language.
No, it's too obvious.
Okay.
Do you have another go?
No.
Okay. Number 1. No fake items, DVDs. No tobacco, weapons, or any kind of fireworks.
This is on a Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Number 2. Do not advertise, request the sale or rehoming of any animals on this site.
Okay.
Didn't say anything about the rehoming of dead animals,
so
I'm just assuming they mean ones that are alive.
Could you rehome a homing pigeon?
That's a good one.
Would just go back, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's a good one. Doesn't say though. Here.
No. Okay.
Number 3. Please, this is a normal one. Please only post once. Bumping once per day is allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Standard, I think, for a thread. Number 4. Please do not cause arguments with other members. We are not a school playground. Number 5. Member who blocks any admin will be banned from the site without warning, as will any member being abusive towards others, which was kind of a bit like your first one.
Yeah.
Number 6 is my favourite.
Okay.
No Avon.
Okay.
And for our American listeners, international listeners, I'm not sure. Is Avon international?
Yeah, I would have thought so.
Okay, I quite like that as a no Avon. They must have had a real problem with Avon.
Yeah,
calling
pressure selling.
Yeah, something's been deeply worrying me, Mark,
and
it has been for years, and it's resurfaced in the news again.
Okay, can I help?
Well, I don't know. Let's see. I don't think you can.
Okay, underestimating my powers.
Yeah, just bear with me on this. So in the Pixar animation WALL-E. Now, have you seen WALL-E? We've talked about WALL-E before.
Okay, so I think I have seen it.
Right.
And the other day on social media, because we mentioned it, TikTok, from listening, started sending clips from WALL-E. And it was the one which I think you referred to about them in the, like, eating all they could.
Yeah.
In the sort of
just flying around on chairs and just looking at screens. Yeah, okay. So WALL-E was released in Pixar animation, released in 2008. We're introduced to a world in 2805 where humans abandoned Earth 790 years previously. If you haven't seen it, I do recommend watching it. Well, because basically it's a fucking masterpiece of animation, storytelling, characterization, and global and social commentary on subjects that are super hot right now and only going to get hotter. It makes a huge statement about a world being taken over and destroyed by consumerism, in particular by a big global behemoth of a supermarket that ended up running and controlling every aspect of our lives. And a society connected purely by computers and screens, and now all human interactions become virtual, and we continue to be sold ideals that endlessly take up our attention, turning us into overweight, unhealthy drones. And it's mad to think that in 2008, Facebook was only 4 years old.
Yeah.
It's still decent, had 100 million users, but now has 2.8 billion.
Yeah. And as we know from Davos, hoping to have 8
billion.
That's 8 billion's their ambition.
And then the Amazon, which is a little bit like the kind of the company in this, which is probably, I imagine it is
based on.
Yeah, I think, it's hard to say exactly, but it's not far off. So when 2008, Amazon was a $19.5 billion US business and is now a $386.1 billion. But I guess my point is those companies were around, but I think they could certainly see where it was going.
Yeah.
And we're all just can see where it's going. And imagine another 10 years it'll be bigger again, and we're all either living that kind of the animation out.
I think we will
or we're just still talking about how bad it's going to be.
And I think the irony of that for me is that I was going to mention today about Disney. Disney is my latest worry.
Okay.
Disney is expanding and
it's huge.
Yeah. But it's swallowing everything.
So there's a wonderful sequence in WALL-E where WALL-E is hanging onto the side of a rocket that has come back down to Earth to take away his girlfriend, Eva. As the rocket leaves the Earth's atmosphere, it crashes through a load of space junk, and I'm getting to my point now, that includes defunct satellites, spacecraft, and debris, or debris for our American listeners.
Aluminum debris.
Yeah. It's disgusting and sad, but what's really disgusting and sad is that it's actually happening.
Yeah.
And it's been happening for years, and ever since we started our journey into space. 3 years ago, there was quite a big article, and it seemed to kind of circulate from my research, and then it seems to be doing the rounds again. And I think mainly because there's a bunch of scientists who have started tracking all the space debris. There are more than 30,000 pieces of space junk bigger than 10 centimetres in orbit around the Earth. And that number goes into millions when you count all the tiny pieces floating about. It's estimated that there are 128 million pieces of debris smaller than 1 centimetre.
But they're not a problem, are they? I mean, I'm no scientist, but I guess if one of those falls, it's just going to get...
It's not about falling. So if you're in space, like doing a spacewalk...
So if Elon Musk's going out...
Yeah, and a fleck of paint hits you at 24,000 miles an hour...
Bang.
It's going to go straight through you.
Yeah.
Any debris will just go through you and just make you look like a cheese grater, won't it? It's not a problem for you, Mark, because you're not an astronaut.
And none of this exists.
What? You're not a flat earther, are you?
You sent me that discussion, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
That was dangerous.
Yeah, I did. I forgot to send you that. And while there are about 2,000 active satellites orbiting the Earth, have a guess how many are inactive?
Just 4,000.
No, 3,000. It's a good guess, to be fair. Mark, disappointed that you were so close. So 3,000 defunct satellites just doing absolutely nothing. Why is this a problem, you ask? Well, you kind of asked that a minute ago.
Yeah, my eyes were asking that.
Your eyes?
Yeah.
But you didn't actually vocalise.
No.
More space junk means more problems. The bigger the space junk, the bigger problems it can cause. Most of the objects pose very little threat to us here on Earth because a lot of chunks of space rubbish would just burn up and disappear if they ever entered the atmosphere. So you're talking about... You're so pleased with yourself.
Yep. And I'm still working on a lot of space junk in your trunk, but keep going.
Okay, you're working on it. Yeah. However, the problems start in space. There's a risk of space debris crashing into important satellites, which provide vital services like map, GPS, and weather warnings. I mean, you love knowing where you are and knowing what the weather is. This is going to affect you, isn't it? Every year, hundreds of collision avoidance maneuvers are made by satellites and even by the International Space Station where astronauts live and work. Talking about Elon Musk, a piece of space junk was seen close to the SpaceX Dragon capsule as it prepared to dock with the ISS this week. The 4 astronauts inside the capsule also heard an alarm warning of a potential collision.
Yeah.
So shit got real. I'll put this link up, but there is something that's now called Astriograph, which is basically a computer simulation tracking every little piece of that debris.
Okay.
And they put it into a video so you can see just like a ball surrounded by lots of spots, lots of little dots, which basically reminded me of WALL-E. That's why I kind of started, because it pans out the Earth and you can just see all these bits.
Imitating life.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a simple question here?
Yeah.
We can get to Mars, which is like quite a way away, and have a perfect landing and then have a little helicopter that manages to survive all of it and then jumps out, and then with what must be the world's biggest remote control, someone in NASA presses a button and this beautiful little helicopter takes perfect pictures and sends them back. That's what's happened. Would it not be possible? I'm guessing that this debris is much nearer the Earth
than what, Mars?
Yeah. Okay. And there's no need for the attitude.
It's not a simple question, it's a stupid question.
So
Mars, do you know how far Mars is away from the Earth?
No.
Clearly not. It's a long way.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say what they're going to do with all those bits and pieces on Mars.
What I'm saying...
They're just going to leave them there.
No.
Aren't they?
Oh, yeah. Like
all the shit they left on the moon.
Okay. Why? They left the boots. They left their boots on the moon. Why the fuck would you leave your boots on the moon?
Just to save weight.
There isn't
home.
an answer to it.
It's just litter, but it's littering. That's all it is.
Well, not from that part. Just it's part of the most historical thing that's happened in the history of the world. Oh, we'll just leave the boots there. That will have space dust on, and we'll have blah 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 blah. No, we won't bring them back. And having spent all this money, we'll just leave bits there.
What, spent all the money on boots?
Well, like the 700 boxes of magnetic tape in the video you sent me.
Right.
700 boxes of magnetic tape. The flat earther was going, those have disappeared.
Oh,
and
right.
the scientist is going, well, magnetic tape is it doesn't last well, it's very fragile and blah, blah, blah. And the other guy goes, it hasn't disintegrated, it's been lost.
Right.
And the scientist goes, And I mentioned this last time, but I'm just coming in here. The USA gave generously every country in the world a lump of
moon rock.
I can't remember the exact number. I think it's 20 of the countries have lost it.
Right. You're saying?
It seems that when you go to the moon, you come back and you're very clumsy. Clumsy and forgetful, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's the radiation.
Yeah. Well, the radiation didn't affect all the photos they took. They were nice and crisp. Anyway, the other thing
Kodak.
is...
Quality film, Mark.
Oh, who was the guy that rhymed Kodak with Kodak? I read that today.
Huh?
Oh, a rapper. And he rhymed Kodak with Kodak in a rap. But the point I'm making, bearing in mind you said Mars was a long, long way away, and all this debris is less long way away,
Yeah.
Surely, like with a big net, or if they know where it all is, just go up and gather it up, or get people doing community service to do it. Or
Well,
something.
like that guy in the grabber I talked about in the last episode.
Yeah.
Going around Bradley
Have a word
Stoke
with those
his...
two.
Yeah.
But there'd be bigger sticks, obviously.
Yeah. Why?
Well, surely if it's such a danger, that would be easier than going to Mars and landing a helicopter. You could just go up there and
clean up the bloody mess we've made.
Yeah.
With companies such as SpaceX and Amazon sending more satellites into orbit, you forget that Amazon are doing a lot of that. The space around the planet is getting even more crowded. The United Nations says all companies should remove their satellites from orbit within 25 years after the end of their mission. So now companies and space agencies are looking at ways to clear up the litter left behind.
Good.
They include devices that can catch satellites and pull them back down to burn up in the atmosphere. Or just making more fucking mess on Earth, right? Because spits will come through, won't it? It's just not just going to get burnt up. Isn't that weird just how we solve stuff, isn't it? Just set fire to it.
Yeah.
That's what we do
the
here.
rocket coming back from the moon didn't burn up. That was lucky. But it had panels that they stuck on, didn't it?
Yes, Mark.
Yeah, that's right.
Talk about lasers to knock objects out of orbit and big magnets or claws. It's like the grabbers at the fair that can grab pieces of junk.
Good. Well, I'm assured now. I'm assured that
someone's
work's being done.
Right, someone's going to go and do something about it.
Do you know what really worries me at the moment? You know, you said about Amazon going into space. You know, Nest, who do the doorbells where you can see who's calling.
Yeah.
And they're now called Google Nest. The fact that Google have bought Nest
there we go.
really worries me. Nest was on
It bought that like 3-4 years ago, so that's nice.
Yeah, well, it's worrying me now more.
Right. It's just sunk in, is it?
Nest was on the American equivalent of Dragon's Den. Is it Shark's Pool? Or
Shark Tank?
Shark Tank. Yeah, it was on there and it didn't get anything.
Yeah.
I just Googled that. That really worries me. Just saying it. There isn't.
What doorbells with cameras on?
But with Google in the title.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Use an old-fashioned bell.
I haven't got one. I've got a Nest thing for the central heating.
Yeah.
But I don't need to... I mean, it's weird that, isn't it? I mean, I don't know about you, Mark, but my doorbell doesn't go very often.
No.
The reason we've got letterboxes is they don't have to disturb us, right?
And the postman always rings twice.
Right. Well, mine doesn't. It's yours.
That was a film reference.
Yeah, I know.
Well, it deserved more of a laugh.
This is a struggle today.
I'm going to do subtitles for you.
I'm really struggling. I don't see the point of that. You're at work and someone rings the bell, and you just see who it is. I mean, just what? What have you got in your house?
Here's the thought. Here's the thought. This is another thing I wanted to say.
Yeah.
So you're leaving the house. You're going down to the coast for a picnic.
Yeah.
On a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
And you leave the house and you go, ooh, I'm just going to check that window's shut. Go to the bathroom, shut the window, get in the car. Do you shut that window? Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Well remembered.
Yeah.
Windows are made of fucking glass. You put a stone next to a window and it smashes. And we've lived this illusion forever that if you shut the window, somehow your house is safe. It isn't. All the windows are glass. It makes no difference if a window is open because it's made of glass.
Why haven't I realised windows are made of glass
even yours
all
are.
these
Look
years?
at them.
I know.
All of them.
Well, I haven't noticed them because I can't. I see right through them. So I see right through the thing you're talking about. I mean, it's just dawned that is. Why haven't I noticed that before?
You might as well leave all the windows open. If you're going to, it was like the guy. Have I told you this one about the guy who worked for Timson's?
No.
So when I did some work with finding offenders jobs, I found this guy, and we always used to call him Three Phones because he had 3 phones.
Right.
We didn't call him 3 phones. We called him by his name because we weren't disrespectful. But he had 3 phones, and one was like a normal phone that he just used for normal stuff. One was
calling people.
Yeah.
Right.
One was back in the day a BlackBerry because BlackBerry that was for drug dealing.
Yeah.
But BlackBerry was totally encrypted. It was safe and blah blah blah. Interesting.
Allegedly.
Oh no, it was the Tottenham riots.
Oh, you believe that?
The Tottenham riots
Why do you believe
were
that?
all organised on BlackBerries.
Who has told you that BlackBerries?
Tottenham rioters did.
Right. So
Jimmy, Big T,
Gospel,
Donald.
Tony 3 phones. Right. Okay.
So
just want to,
and then he had a third one, which was an old Nokia. That was his mum.
For playing Snake on it. Yeah, right.
That's good. See, you're warming up now.
Yeah, fucking having to beat him or join him, right? Fucking hell.
So a tsunami of irrelevance. Anyway.
Yeah.
So he used to come in looking for a job, and his modus operandi was he carried a machete. He would kick in the door of the house at night when people were in at like 10 o'clock watching the telly.
It was not quiet then. Everyone knew he was coming.
Yeah, no need for Google Nest.
Yeah, it's too late. He's in your house.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, who's at the door? It's just a machete. The Mr. Men books, Mr. Nosy and Mr. Machete. Anyway, so
Mr. Machete. I don't remember that one.
So he would go in the house, threaten the occupants with a machete.
Right.
They would give him money and jewellery, and he would leave.
Fucking
That's what he did.
Yeah, simple life, simple times.
So when he came and he wanted to turn over a new leaf, as he was on this scheme, and he
He's a
was
gardener
interested
as well, was he? I'm confused. Right. Part of his rehabilitation.
No, he read in libraries.
Okay.
And can you put your phone on silent? And that one.
And that one.
So when he came to us, Timpson's, and big shout out for Timpson's, I always find them quite strange. I would never go into a Timpson's. My anxiety level goes up in Timpson's.
Right.
I just find their font and their colour unnerving.
I could see you working in Timpson's.
No, not with that. Is that burgundy?
Oh, the colour, you don't like the colour?
No, or the font. Anyway, so they were doing a lot, and this is true. Timpson's have been brilliant for working with disadvantaged groups.
Yeah,
Absolutely
they hire
brilliant.
ex.
They even
offenders,
take them away and let them
do,
have
very good.
holidays and all sorts. And
Sorry.
so I put
You mean they let the workers have holidays?
No, like in their holiday cottage. Timpson's have like holiday resorts or whatever.
Cool. Yeah, okay, sorry.
And we were talking to this guy, and he went, "I wouldn't mind working in Timpson's." And so I said, "Fine." So we got him a job as a key cutter.
A machete boy.
Yeah,
Key cutter.
Yeah. And I got a lot of stick
Yeah.
from the powers that be, going like, "What the actual fuck are you doing?"
Right,
Because he was quite well known. And I said, and he said, and I said, he doesn't need the keys because he just kicks the doors down and go with a machete. And it's going back to my Windows bit.
Yeah.
Him having a key to a house wouldn't make any difference. He wouldn't.
Oh, that was the worry. That he had
he'd be
access
cutting
to
keys for someone.
Right, rather than just
Take
hold on, you've got machete wielding madman.
I guess it
working
could be
in
sharpened
Timpson's.
on that like
Yeah.
stone wheel.
He's got everything he needs, isn't he,
Yeah.
to keep his machete in order?
But anyway, so he did that, and he didn't last that long, but he did do fine when he was there, and he won a customer service award and everything. But it was the point I'm saying is that when you look at a house per se, going back to the thing I always say, if a Martian came down and a Martian goes, "You're shutting that window so that a piece of glass that a toddler could smash and climb into, or anyone could," your house isn't safe. It's just a premise that it's safe by shutting a window.
Yeah.
Because you could get into any house in 10 seconds because windows are
Made of glass.
made of glass.
It's just the insight we're looking for.
I've been in the trade. I know these things. Anyway, where were you?
About
I don't want to interrupt.
You don't want to know. Barely holding it together. Right, should we move on?
Yeah.
Work-life ballet. Now, as I said a minute ago, or probably 4 hours ago, whenever the beginning of this pod was, we're going to start talking about some more. We talked about this in the last episode. We want to talk about some more serious stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we were absolutely categorical. We're totally aligned on this, that we don't want to be doing our usual half an hour of fuckwittery at the beginning of this
Mm-hmm.
and then go into something quite serious.
Yes.
So what we wanted to do here was kind of tee all that up,
Mm-hmm.
because you're writing your bits about
Mm-hmm.
borderline personality disorder, and we want to get that structured and right.
Yep.
But we also said we're going to just do a little bit of a kind of an intro to that kind of setup and have a little bit of a little bit of our usual two guys in a snug, right?
Yeah.
And you came here tonight, and there's me and me, your head in my hands, going, "What are we going to do, Mark?" And you went, "It's all right, Damo, I got this, son." You said,
I'll got you back.
"Don't worry."
What could go wrong?
Yeah. But immediately, before we started recording, we started talking about the things we've been looking at this week, things we've been sending each other.
Yeah.
Because my first line in my bullet was, "Where do we go from here?" on terms of mental health. But I sent you a video from, was it today, yesterday, from Russell Brand talking about another one in the Great Reset.
Yes.
He's done some brilliant videos. He's so good. And why hasn't he been banned from YouTube?
Yes.
The thing,
It's controlled opposition.
It's difficult.
That's what I worried.
I mean, he's probably good for advertisers. Obviously, we don't have any advertisers. But when you got, 1.5 million views within a couple of days, they're probably not going to ban him, are they?
No.
However, he talked. Not that he's saying anything controversial. He has opinions on stuff, and he's satirical and everything else. But he's talking about not all the things, some of the things we're talking about.
Yes.
And it's certainly pushing the boundaries of that a lot more. But anyway, we're not Russell Brand, so We're just a little old.
I think it's aspirational, Russell Brand. I mean, I think we've said before, we've discussed various people and almost like the stereotypical view, like I was saying about Ricky Gervais, about, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I've looked at Russell Brand, and I think the thing I don't know if I sent this to you today as a text. The only slight problem I have is the confirmation bias. Russell Brand now, every time I watch him, I'm agreeing with 99% of what he says. It's very rare that I'm going, I don't agree with that. So the question that I'm asking myself is because he's on the same track as you and me generally, is that therefore turning away my objective thinking, and I'm just going, yes, he's right because I think that and I know I'm right. And this is the bit that we were going to talk about, not when we're talking about mental health, but the bit I was saying to you, I'd like to look at the fact of that there's no absolute truth, and mention the two things I was saying to you about the basketball and the shooting.
Yeah.
And so Russell Brand can't just be talking the absolute truth. There has to be other people's truth.
The things that have ordinarily been called conspiracies.
Yes.
And his video, hold on, I'm getting confused now.
With Edward Snowden.
Yes.
Yes.
So it was him. It was a recent video, but it was an old interview with Edward Snowden that he brought back up, and he was talking about conspiracies not being conspiracies. And if they are, they're in plain sight. They're not being hidden by anyone. They're not there's not a murky underworld of conspiracy. It is literally being delivered to you daily.
As he said, it isn't giant lizards in a grove. It's what we're seeing on our news.
Yeah. And there's all sorts of things like the repetition. You kind of talked about it earlier off mic about Truman. Yeah,
the confusion. If you can't confvince, confuse.
No, we talked about that.
We mentioned it here, yeah.
Sorry, yeah. That, and I think the reason we kind of thrown all these things in, it probably seems a bit scattergun, is I'm certainly feeling that kind of fatigue of looking at this stuff, trying to absorb it, trying to understand it, and then then looking at something else. It's either a counter or it's or an extension of that.
Yes.
And it is relentless, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's exhausting.
It is exhausting. Seriously.
And it can then start to really get, into the seams and into your fibres and just kind of start short-circuiting shit.
Yes.
When the other things are overwhelming anyway, that can just tip you right over the edge. Yeah. And it's really hard to kind of make sense of it. And you're kind of sitting here, you're struggling with various things and just then let alone talking about it. So where do you begin? Not necessarily you feel like you have to take a side, but there's an element you feel like you need to take a stance. And I'm not even sure what my stance is when it's also just feels so fluid. Do you know what I mean? And
totally.
I'm never going to work it out. So it's hard to put it's nailing jelly to a wall, isn't it?
Yeah. And why start a fight that you stand no chance of winning? Yeah. But for me, this last week has been, just to reiterate what you're saying, the confusion and the deep dives and interesting, when I've been doing my research on borderline personality disorder, one of the lesser known things that came out, because obviously we're going to talk about it and we'll talk about the various traits, but obsession is a very, very big trait. But someone I've been reading up from who has it, but is also a psychiatrist, was saying the propensity for deep diving, especially in politics and social affairs, is really preeminent along people with BDP. Okay. Like, it's a big thing. Mm-hmm. And what I found is that on these deep dives, literally, I was driving the other day and I was, because I talk a lot in my head to myself, I was saying in my head, I honestly think I'm right at the top there on paranoia now, that this world is a game. And I'm telling myself all my stuff about holograms and all my stuff about computer games and all my stuff about coincidences, it isn't me being the mad one. And then you go, oh, pull yourself back, Mark. That's the rantings of a madman. And I go, no, I'm right. Yeah. And then you're going, you can't be, because the rest of the world can continue without having to dive down like you do in intricate detail.
They seemingly can, but can they really? Yeah. And I'm not sure they can, because when you start to, scratch the surface of anyone we know, it's not all plain sailing, is it? No. No one's got it. No one's nailed it. No one is nailing it. No one will be nailing it anytime soon. But I mean, we're all trying to find our way and understand the world. And I've probably said this before. I'm sure there's lots of people who just kind of float through life. I've had good friends who just seem to glide above it. Yes. In a kind of, you could call it kind of an ignorance or an arrogance or a...
I think it's a contentment. That you're able to be content with what's happening without.
But there's also an element of, and we're kind of accused of, rightly, of being disengaged about certain things and being numb to certain things. And that can be a deliberate and an unconscious thing. But there's some people who I'm not even sure they're aware of that. Yeah. And just seem to ride it out. And sometimes I kind of think, well, it would be nice to kind of not be affected or think
Totally,
about that, it'll be drawn into something, or like I'm not gonna let that bother me. 2 minutes later, you're balls deep in an argument, and you can't, like you just kind of said, you can't kind of get yourself out of it. A lot like our conversations here, we'll start stuff, and I go, this is the first time I've run this one out, but I'm not actually sure of it. It's forming as I'm talking about it.
Yeah,
the amount of time.
Which is the whole thing about free will, about you don't know what's going to come out of your mouth next. We're exponents.
But it's not, I don't, I'll never know enough. No one will ever know enough to have a full argument or a full, you know what I mean? Cohesive.
Yeah, because there isn't any absolute.
No, that's it.
But there are a couple of things this week that have made me just sit back and say, I can understand why people could pick holes in this argument, or I understand why you're going on one here, Mark, and like you need to shut up about that because you've made your point, but other people have a different view. But there's been one incident that for me has epitomised almost like the homogenisation of what information we're being given. And it's the march in London. I don't know the exact figures.
So this was the one, was it last weekend?
It was last weekend.
A Saturday?
It was advertised beforehand as being something like a March for Freedom. It was primarily an anti-lockdown, anti-restriction. It wasn't an anti-vax, although there were people there with anti-vax.
But it was certainly an anti-mask, wasn't it? Because there was I couldn't see very many masks at all, if any at all.
No, it was very much about the anti-restrictions. Now, the point of it was to show that not everybody agrees with everything that's happened. This just hasn't left my head, and this is the reasoning why. We discussed, I think, 2 pods ago, maybe 1 pod ago, about Extinction Rebellion. And I watched a video that lasted about 2 minutes of, I think, 6 or 7 women being filmed on a very high quality camera, probably by the BBC, trying not very successfully to smash windows at Barclays.
Oh, okay.
There was a big police presence. Basically, they smashed some windows and then they were arrested very carefully, and then they were put in police vans. And probably, like the first set of Extinction Rebellion protesters, they'll all be let off. I don't know if you've heard that. So the first ones who, not first, but recent ones who did a lot of graffiti over the Shell building were all found innocent by a jury. And they said that that what they did was they felt the shareholders of that company would approve of it, and that they felt it was a fitting act, and the jury let them all off.
So a moral crime.
So what happened is the jury in effect made, I think, a moral judgment is if you're going on a big multinational and you spray Extinction
That's
Rebellion.
Interesting where we're going there, isn't it?
Yeah.
So crimes on corporates.
Yes. So
it's different to anybody else, right?
Which will be interesting from the protesters, from the Bristol
riots. So if you've gone and done it on the local, co-op or local corner shop where someone's owning it, that wouldn't be good, right? Because he's just a guy trying to earn a living.
Yes, there was some justification. So this went to a jury.
Okay, interesting.
And I think one person pleaded guilty, and it was something to do with childcare, they said. But basically the others all went innocent. So this poor person who said guilty, because it's like, there's film of them doing it, but they decided to go innocent and use this as their defence.
Okay, right.
Anyway, so they were let off. So what I'm saying is, so Extinction Rebellion, obviously it told the press, told the TV, we're going to go and smash these windows. It was filmed, they were arrested, end of. When the accompanying reporting of this incident, there was mention that it was criminal damage, and there was mention that they were attacking this bank because of this bank's links with X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But they also said about Extinction Rebellion being pro actions to demonstrate against climate change and blah, blah, blah. So they basically got some of their agenda broadcast.
Yeah.
In the London March, I don't know how many people were there, and you can do all sorts of things with videos, but a professor, had a time lapse of the march going across one of the bridges, and he said this is the time lapse, but it actually took whatever it was, 18 minutes for these people. And when I've done a freeze frame, they're about...
Oh, he's worked out roughly how many...
It's about 150 people wide.
Right.
And so if one person goes through every 5 seconds, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So he said on this particular bit, there was at least 40,000 people.
Right.
The general consensus is that there was 100,000 plus when you look at most of the estimates.
Okay.
So
the things I saw was several thousand. And wherever I saw it being reported at all, topping 10,000, certainly not 10 times.
Well, this guy, and when you look at the time lapse, you go, that does, having been to a football stadium with 40,000 people, that looked like 40,000 people. It took them so long to walk. This is my thinking. I knew this march was taking place. Listen to the news on the radio, no mention. I decided to go on the BBC website as it was happening. They were reporting on a submarine in Indonesia that 56 people had died on.
You're right. I remember you texting me. It wasn't anywhere.
Yeah. So I kept checking the website, and then it was like coming up for, things like, dog finds engagement ring on beach. It was like full of trivia. Then I went on to Twitter, no mention of it on Twitter. Then I sat and watched the whole of the 6 o'clock news, no mention.
Yeah.
The point I'm making is this: if we've come to a position where a decision is made on what is newsworthy, and somebody has made a decision based on the message that was given, not meeting societal or government or media norms, we're into the biggest censorship you can get. Because we're being shown what people want us to see. I spoke to a number of people on that day and said, what do you think of the march? No one had seen it.
No.
100,000 people marching through London is more newsworthy than 7 women breaking some windows.
Yeah.
But it didn't fit the narrative.
No, it doesn't.
That has scared me more than anything, because what we're basically being told is you see.
It completely underlines certainly the BBC's line.
Yeah.
Completely undermines the idea that many people might have a different view.
Yes.
They won't possibly put that up.
No.
But it's also not the first time this happened. This is...
But to that scale, definitely.
But also because what social media gives us is the kind of the eyes on the ground. Where were you watching it then if it wasn't? Because I saw the stuff on Twitter.
I was watching live streams on Twitter.
Okay, yeah.
There were some people doing live streams.
But for years, until we had cameras with decent video and decent connectivity, we just had to trust the powers that be, right? Now we see our news is basically crowdsourced, isn't it?
Yes, but
crowd published.
But the only BBC reference on Twitter is that they now have a disinformation reporter, and so this disinformation reporter was tweeting as she went.
Oh, I think I saw her saying they're saying this, but is
so she was showing a picture of a banner like, it's all a scam.
And then debunking it.
Yeah, and out of 100,000 people, there are going to be some people who are anti-vax or accepting that it...
But for any other protest, there's not someone giving the alternative view.
No.
So the debunking is just debunking an alternative view. What they were doing and what they believed in is fact.
For them, yes.
Yeah, it's the classic, just because you don't like it doesn't mean they're not right.
But her tweets were like, when I've interviewed people on this march, they all seem to be, and they're all COVID-idiots, and there's going to be a massive... But looking at the stuff she's done, everything is basically just saying, these people are idiots, they're mad, they're stupid, and if you do a full fact check on everything they're saying, they're wrong. Lockdowns work, full stop, there isn't an argument.
My first point on what I've written down here is, where do we go from here? What do we do with that? What do you do with that? Apart from it circulate around your brain and drive you crackers, what do we do? What individually do we do? Because this is kind of a, trying to bring it back to the mental health bit. What do we do collectively? Can we do anything? I was thinking about it the other day, and I don't know whether you saw the documentary of Greta Thunberg, they're following her on her tour, and when she came to Bristol and stuff like that. It's brilliant. She is brilliant. I don't think there's anyone, certainly of that age, without a doubt, who's commanded such attention in recent times and a following, and has been so effective in encouraging other people to take action. From school kids to adults. Can you think of any other single person with a message that has the power to create a movement than her in the last 20 years?
No, probably not. So
part of me just goes, why can't you channel that into a political party? Because the only way we're going to change stuff is by people representing. Again, this is definitely something we talked about off mic, wasn't it? About the other thing in the Russell Brand video about what a government is. And a government means to govern and to control us.
Yes.
But also they can't be held accountable now. Like you said, there was an example of Hat Mancock today, just refusing to answer a question.
Yes.
And that's that, job done. Doesn't have to go there. Where's the argument? How do you argue with someone who doesn't want to argue?
Yeah.
It's the classic Trump. It's fake news.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful way to disarm someone trying to hold you accountable. Brilliant, isn't it?
It is, but
you can't reason with an unreasonable person.
No.
We were
talking also.
So where'd you go with that?
In a social situation when there is silence, you can't argue with silence. We were saying that.
Yeah,
if someone,
well,
if you thought about this and they don't answer,
someone just walks off. You got nothing, have you?
Yeah. It's a little bit like the argument about the protest. If there's no police there, there's no fighting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there's no fighting against the police, put it that way.
But if there's no reporters there, it hasn't happened. Has it really happened at all? Do we channel this into a new political movement? Do we just ignore it? Or do we do that thing where, people go, I'd hate that pub. That pub is shit. Why do you keep going back to that pub? Just don't go there. If it doesn't deserve to be open, doesn't deserve your custom, don't go there. But people keep going back. I like Tesco's. Or don't like Amazon. Stop ordering on Amazon then. We keep doing it to ourselves, don't we? We keep doing nothing, I guess, or we keep doing things just to perpetuate all this stuff.
But I was going through my archive on Insta.
Why do we keep looking at BBC? Why I keep looking at BBC? I'm trying to look at Al Jazeera and other things, but I keep checking the BBC website. I keep going back to the same sources.
We keep believing the Daily Mail that eggs will kill you.
Yeah.
Why do they keep doing that? Really, what have they got against eggs?
Are they still doing the salmonella thing? Are they?
But the it came from China,
right.
so there was a.
But why are we doing? Why can we just exist without looking at it? Because this is all just kind of media and the information that we've been given. Can we just go through life and ignore it?
There's two.
We could be a lot better off, couldn't we?
We would be. I think when we're talking about mental health and we're talking about self-preservation, yes, going back to your cottage core, going back to that sort of rural idyll, I think is becoming more and more attractive to people. Think so. In answer to your question, though, there's two things.
But it's not going to very quickly. It's not going to move anything on. It's no good just to turn away, like walk away from the argument.
Yes,
it's still not solving the problem. The fires are still burning. We can all, because everyone is moving to the country. Everyone is buggering off to the country, getting out of the city, and going for cottagecore, right?
Yeah,
we're still governed by the same people.
But we're governed by less and less people now, aren't we? We're governed by, when you look at Davos.
So if we just ignore everyone and stop, we start buying locally, and we stop going to the corporates, and we all come off Facebook. We could change things, but we won't.
No.
Why do we get ourselves wound up by it? Why do we keep finding ourselves? It gives us something to talk about on here. But we could be talking about other things. And we've kind of gone off the mental health, and this is part of it, but we're kind of moving off for it because we're getting bogged down in what Hat Mancock and other people are doing. We could just fucking ignore them and get on with just trying to make our lives a little bit easier.
But when I go back to
why do we get so angry? And just, it's the injustice of it. There's always injustice in the world. But is there anything we can just concentrate on and ourselves and the people around us to make things a bit better? If everyone did that, it's back to being accountable, like for our health and the public health. And if we sort our individual health out, surely our public health will be better. Isn't that what we should be doing here?
Yes, but that's almost being dissuaded. Any individual initiative. This is my problem about ignoring it and going to live in a cave. At my darkest moments, when my paranoia is at its height, I firmly believe the world is being taken over by a cabal of a few individuals. I believe that the more extreme views. Yeah. And the reason
I don't think you're far off.
No. But the reason I believe that is because I apply my retrospective eye, a little bit like when you were saying about Wally. Mm-hmm. What I've done as almost like a social experiment with myself is I've put myself in the future. I've put myself in my last couple of years. And I'm telling a story to somebody in 20 years, 15 years' time and say, back in 2020, 2021, these are the things that happened. And government said do this and people did it. And people knew that Amazon not only was taking over every element and was going into space, and that Google had AI, and that things were being invented that we can't tell whether they're real or not. And we see things and instantly believe it. So we see a picture of a text message between Boris Johnson and James Dyson. Who knew if that ever existed?
No, absolutely right.
I don't know if it existed. I made the point on my Insta story that James Dyson kept saying James at the end.
Yeah, who does that?
No one does that on the text. If you're one of the most busiest businessmen in the world, I'll just put James.
We should start putting our name at the end of every text.
Yours sincerely, love and kisses. The point I'm making is that when I put myself in the future and I was talking to an imaginary child of that time, that child would going, what the fuck were you doing? It's in plain sight. They've written a book, COVID-19, The Great Reset, that says, this is what's going to happen with COVID. This is what's going to happen with public health. This is what's going to happen with vaccines. And Bill Gates for years has said, this is what happens for vaccines.
And also, I know we've said this before, but The Great Reset was a conspiracy beginning of 2020.
Yes, and now it's mainstream.
Now it's a book.
Building better, building better, building better. The same language is used.
Yep.
We have Stanley Johnson. Stanley Johnson suddenly comes on our screens on game shows. He was on that one where they all have to run away from the police, and he's like a figure of fun. Hunted. So he was on that, figure of fun, blah, blah, blah. He has had books written about pandemics, and he's had articles written about depopulation. His son has had articles written about the need for depopulation. Bill Gates has said categorically that there are too many people in this world. And in 15 years...
in a week where Boris has been allegedly caught saying, let the bodies pile up.
Yeah.
It's all adding up, isn't it?
But what I'm saying is, if in 15 years, the person I'm speaking to goes, God, you've done a lot of worrying, Mark. You could have just chilled. Or
what did you do about it, Mark?
Or, exactly. If you knew all this and you had all this concerns and you just sat by, then you're as guilty
What, you
as
did a podcast? Well, no one fucking listened to. You fucking hero.
Yeah. And went behind police lines.
Yeah.
Gently.
And watched. And got back in your Merc.
Anarchy and middle age. I think the point I'm saying is we don't know that.
But that is a good point.
Yeah.
Well, it almost feels like going into town and with a placard. I've never been an activist. I don't think I've ever gone out and kind of stood up for something in my life.
Yeah.
I almost think there's the point where I'm not even sure any of it's working anymore. No one's listening.
No.
It's just pissing people off.
Yes.
Isn't it? Where it's getting twisted to the point of no one knows even what they're doing there. Right? It's completely ineffectual.
And whatever you're doing, it can be reported however people want.
We're on to the next thing every day. Next thing. Nothing is and it's this kind of divide, conquer, and the confusion stuff, isn't it? And the controlled opposition. All these things just lead to the elite, and which there is a small amount of people with a hell of a lot of wealth and power.
Yes.
It's just adding up so beautifully for them, isn't it?
It's just falling in their lap.
But what we're not doing, no one is challenging that.
No.
No one's sitting around going, why don't you just start up an Amazon Challenger brand?
Yes.
No one does that because everyone goes, why would I want to do that?
Well, Amazon's still are banning unions, and everyone's going, oh, China's really bad. Have you seen all the stuff they're doing? But Amazon's banning unions, for fuck's sake.
But no one's going, why don't I just start the next Amazon?
But then when you get so big, nobody else can come in, I feel. I think there's a time when if you've got that niche... I've seen something called Tribal, I think, trying to take over from Spotify.
Right.
They've got 20 million more songs.
It's hard.
Yeah.
But
I think soon it's going to be impossible because Amazon are going to have local shops with no staff in.
Do you remember the Tesco down in Stokes Croft in Bristol?
There was riots.
Yeah. And I think someone's wheelie bins were pushed over, wasn't it? Someone got really cross.
Yeah.
And you just knew, I remember at the time, you know what's coming. Everyone's going to get really angry. They're all talking about not supporting the local shops. And you know what's coming. Tesco's just going to sit there. They've got the plan and it's all been approved. They're going to wait. It dies down. Bang.
Everyone goes in their cider.
Yeah.
4 for a £5.
All those people who stopped going to their local mate in the shop because it was cheaper at Tesco. It's just like, it's not going to change unless there's kind of wider culture change. But there's no one to kind of spread the seed.
That would be impossible to do because
we're all off to hell in a handcart, aren't we? We are.
You could not. The size of the behemoth means that it cannot be overturned. You cannot.
But my point back to
them.
Greta, she created, that global kind of movement, the groundswell. I'm not saying it hasn't changed. Well, that's kind of what I was going to say without being because I think it did something and it has done something.
It raised awareness, but it couldn't take it anywhere.
But just no one harnessed that.
No.
And normally anyone who is good enough to harness that, normally is kind of, the evil one, the Dr. Evil in the corner, my plan's coming, or her entourage suddenly would have just, go, hold on, doesn't he run that company? There's always that kind of, sinister kind of, undertone to it all. It seems like the only way to do that is by going in there and smashing it from the inside out. I'm not prepared to do it. I'm not prepared to do it.
I would be prepared.
I'm prepared to give someone my vote, but I
would be prepared to do any sort of action or any type of undermining of institutions or, I don't mean violence against people, but violence against property, if I felt it was possible that it could achieve something. I firmly believe that the control over our lives now is so great that it's impossible to rise up against it. And I'll give you an example. We know, and I don't think many people dispute it apart from the Chinese, that there are up to 2 million Muslims in detention centres. Yeah. We also know that Apple have withdrawn certain bits that they were getting.
You said before, why would they do that if there wasn't a problem?
Yeah. Apple, if it was cost effective, unless there was a big moral imperative that this is going to be bad for business, we'll still do it.
Yeah.
So this is happening. This is my prediction. The next Winter Olympics are being held in China. Mm-hmm. And in the past, we've had people not going to Moscow. Mm-hmm. The Americans didn't go to Moscow. They boycotted that. Yeah. We've had other Olympics where there's been, right back to Jesse Owens in 1936 with the Black Power salute. Yeah. We've had Baader Meinhof in Munich. Mm-hmm. Olympics has always been politicized.
Yeah, you're right.
I think if this world goes, oh, shit, China, that's a bit dodgy, and they just hold the Olympics, then we have given up. We're losing all our sense of proportion. We're buying from Amazon, who ban unions. There's a small cafe in Bristol that was not paying its staff properly. I used to go into that cafe. I refused to go into that cafe. A number of my friends did because of the way they were treating their staff. And that was a small business. And yet I'll still buy from Amazon. So I'm here spouting all this off and being as hypocritical as the rest of us because it's almost impossible. If you want to get flashing LED lights by 10 o'clock the same day, it's hard to buy local.
And I'm not sitting here saying I'm not part of the problem, Mark. I'm part of the problem.
Yeah. But I just think we're almost being subsumed by the gigantic nature of these. We don't know what 380 billion turnover looks like. It's like
right.
It's more than most countries. It's out of control.
How do we pull it back to what we're going to be talking about? How is it relevant? It is relevant, but do we just need to switch off? It's not going to solve a problem, but aren't our own problems and issues and disorders just worth looking after and protecting?
And
do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean. And I think leading into us talking about mental health, I can't remember which economist it was. I don't know if it was an economic theory anyway, that man is selfish. And it was a premise for an economic theory. I can't remember exactly what it was. And I think sometimes man has to be selfish, but that now I think becomes that you, in a way, just look after yourself.
Yeah.
I think survival
which
can only
also
happen.
isn't selfish.
No.
But is traditionally seen as so.
Yes. And I think it's
thinking
almost
about
like
yourself and your own health and your own well-being, you bastard.
And that goes to the point which you've raised a lot and I've never really picked up upon, is about we shouldn't be responsible on the government for our health.
No.
And we are. It's like,
we're all looking,
I'm overweight, I'm obese.
We're all pointing at them.
I wasn't protected, or I wasn't informed, and I wasn't. There's a whole number of reasons why people aren't healthy.
And the shops only sell that, so I've got no choice.
Yes.
So we've all got a choice.
And the reason I'm mentioning the obesity thing
it's more difficult. It's not difficult. It is more difficult often to get the right things for the right price.
Yes.
But it is possible.
Yes.
Isn't it?
The reason I mentioned obesity is I wanted to lead in something that was on Good Morning Britain today that was asking the questions, basically, should we not sell unhealthy foods to obese people? And I think this goes down to, we sell cigarettes to people who are unhealthy and have lung disease. Mm-hmm. We sell alcohol to people who have liver disease because we agree that there's personal choice and what a person wants to do with their own life.
Yeah.
But I think it's getting to the point that and I know this is going to be controversial, but the massive correlation between obesity and death with COVID-19 cannot be ignored. But it is.
It will be ignored, yeah.
It is ignored. All the inferences around social distancing, washing hands, masks, blah, 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 blah. It isn't about, if you look at the people that died, they had comorbidities and obesity was a massive problem. But still, Boris Johnson was saying, wasn't he, we're going to put 100 million to... I haven't seen one thing in the press about what this new thing is that's going to make us all healthy. And I haven't seen one line. No. I think, being selfish...
That's us.
Yeah.
No.
So you look after number one.
Yeah.
And those around you and support other people by giving them good information. But I don't think we can beat them. I think not buying from Amazon for a day ain't going to change it. Unfortunately, I think it's gone too far. It's too big, which isn't very optimistic, is it?
I was going to say.
Maybe this is on the rest of our podcasts.
Yeah. Is there any light at the end of this tunnel?
60-year-old man super glued to Amazon head office. With Gorilla Glue. Do you see that woman that put Gorilla Glue in her hair?
No.
And she sued them because it didn't say on the packet that you couldn't.
Right. Did she spike it like a punk?
Oh, I don't know. I used to use soap for that. I used to go bubbly, if you like, in the mosh pit.
I bet you smelled delicious. Where are we going with this now, Mark?
We have our conversation in the snug. You and I are just talking about...
Have we not just had that?
That wasn't mental health, was it?
Well, it was meant to be.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I thought that was the state of the world.
Oh, no. I kept trying to bring it back to...
I know we referred to mental health.
Yeah, we had. Yeah, we did. But, we're not setting it up for...
Okay, I'll tell you what then. How about the final bit is that we just have a little bit more focused on why we're going to talk about BPD. And say that, we've looked at the macro, we've looked at the world as it is and how difficult it is for everyone. We want, in forthcoming episodes, to look at something in detail, to give information, to give education so that people are better informed. And we're going to spend 5-6 minutes now just explaining why we're doing it and how important it is.
Hey, just a quick warning that in this next section we are talking about borderline personality disorder and suicide, so do tread carefully.
When we go on to borderline personality disorder and I want to explain certain things, the basis for BPD quite often is from trauma. And obviously the definition of trauma, and like you're describing the world, most people have faced some trauma in the last year, either through personal loss or
all sorts.
From all sorts. But this gradation and this hierarchy is something that can eat away at people, because it's like, here's me getting all stressed about not wanting to go to the pub, but there's people dying. Yeah. And therefore my trauma doesn't match theirs.
We do jokingly say we talk about first world problems. Yeah. But that is something we joke about. But you can kind of step out yourself and find it funny, but it isn't funny.
But it can allow people to be dismissive. And this is one of the things when we talk about mental health.
Or not approach it at all.
Yeah.
Oh, because that's just silly. It's trivial. Yeah. And it's not.
You don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
Well, I might not need to worry about that per se, but what happened for 12 years of my life has put me in a position that I will worry about that, because that's reliving traumas or bringing something up. And those traumas don't have to be fighting in Afghanistan or being in a horrific car crash or anything. It can be something that is a slow drip that has an effect. It can be something. Yeah. We mentioned this, which I think is really interesting. Again, looking at the BPD is about, we were saying about the formative first 7 years, and that when we used to foster, if we had a child any age over 7, their loyalty to their parents, no matter how much they'd been abused and mistreated, outweighed anything we could do to them in terms of anything positive with schooling, with holidays, with love, whatever. There was this.
And it sounds totally irrational when you haven't lived that life, doesn't it? And you're sitting there going, how can you possibly still be sticking up for them? Yeah. How could you still love someone like that who's treated you so appallingly? But it's nature, isn't it?
Yeah. And even when they were a bit older and was going, yes, he did treat me, and this is what he used to do to me, and this is blah, blah, blah. And I go, we've just taken you on a 3 weeks, all expenses paid holiday. That didn't have the same input. And that's exactly the same with mental health, is that when children are children, people can go and look at them and go, I feel really sorry, I empathise, I sympathise. That young person has been through abuse or neglect. And then that person grows up and they have problems linked to what happened in those first 7 years. And people go, they're a bit troubled. And then they get to a certain age, they're then problems. That person's acting up, that person's a yob, that person's an offender, that person needs to be locked up. And all those early years of trauma get chucked in the bin, and the sympathy disappears until that person is then maybe diagnosed and work happens, and then someone goes, shit, it was those first 10 years that forced them to put those windows in. And I think as a society, what's happening, it's almost like the shoulding that I've mentioned before, which is now is actually used in American psychology a lot. It's actually a verb now, shoulding. Right. And it's about that you should just pull yourself together because there's people worse off than you, or you should be happy that you're living in London and not in India, or and it doesn't, none of that matters because it's what's relevant to that person. The one thing I wanted to mention, because I alluded to this and I didn't actually, when we came to record, I was struggling to actually say a bit about Lewis. I don't even think I said his name. And so I think I just really want to just be very, very clear, I think, about why this is important for me, but I think for us as well, in terms of, we've discussed mental health a lot. On and off the pod. I think we're privileged in that we have the ability, from being intellectual and having a mouthpiece of a podcast, to do something that will meet the criteria that you say at the beginning, if we can help one person. And Amelia has written a couple of things on her Instagram that have been quite moving to me, because she has been quite vociferous. It's almost like you're saying, what can we actually do? Her posts around Lewis's suicide have had a smattering of, he didn't suffer in silence. He told you he was troubled. He told us, he told friends and family and society. And with all that support that was there, people are going to feel they failed him. They didn't fail him. He made a decision. But what I'm saying is that there will be people that can either be supported earlier, or people who around people with mental health problems that can be educated earlier, that allows us as a society to make a difference. And that's the whole thing. When I've sounded a bit anti on COVID, is it does feel to me that a lot of other people are being forgotten. And this was one of Lewis's claims. Lewis would have said, if I had gone down with COVID, I would be in a hospital being looked after.
Yeah.
With extreme mental health problems, I didn't get into a hospital.
Yeah.
I was put on a waiting list,
Yeah.
and I didn't get looked after.
Yeah.
And the likelihood
it's
of him dying,
citizen bit, isn't it?
The likelihood of him dying from mental health was way above
greater.
dying from physical health. So we didn't do that risk assessment. Society,
we're talking about the science and the number, the stats around BPD and
suicide rates.
The suicide rate,
like which is off the scale.
He said if that was on the news,
yes,
he'd be like, hold on, why are we not doing anything about it? Because this is way higher than COVID, for example.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that right? Kind of in terms of...
Well, just, beyond.
Yeah, the numbers difference. Are just, the percentages are like, hold on a minute. It's not to say there aren't other conditions and other things that are equally staggering.
Yeah.
You know.
And we're not doing a gradation of mental health. It's not like, this is the one. But this is...
No, that's right.
This is a hidden one.
Yes, it's... But, we've talked about cancer before becoming just the thing we're used to, stand up to cancer and the bake-off and, 1 in 2 people are going to get cancer. There's almost a little bit that's becoming a bit of kind of wallpaper and you almost kind of tune out to it. But that is the kind of the rock and roll condition, isn't it? Cancer. It's the one that, gets all the money, gets all the attraction because, if
you go out with a can for BPD, most people are going to walk by, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, and we're not, like you said, we're not saying there aren't lots of other condition disorders that need attention, but it's just the thing that's kind of on our radar.
Yeah, and I think all the things we're going to cover are there's a sense of being generic, and there's a sense also of every single one of us has a personality, and every single one of us will have attributes in that personality that sometimes cause us problems. Some of us might be addicted or obsessive or over anxious or depressed or extreme sadness. It's going back to the dire consequences, and when you get that cocktail of all these things which BDP does present, then it's dire consequences. But I think by having a specific conversation about one disorder, I think we'll be able to help a whole number of other people who are going, I'm not alone in thinking that then. I'm not the only person that does that when times are hard. We're using BPD because we're in a position to talk about it, and it was a 28-year-old man took his own life, which is tragic. And I think that tragedy, it's a little bit like saying with the Amazon and everything, what can we do? This is something we can do. Yeah. We can tell however many people listen to this that we can stop another person having that fate by providing education.
And also, we've just been talking about all these things that happen in the world and feeling hopeless that you can't do anything about. Almost, what is the point? It's so big. And you even said yourself, it's too far gone. Yeah. I would also kind of flip that and say here, like someone like Lewis, but not exactly a shrinking violet, was very vocal, and and it still happened to him. That the worst consequence happened. Yes. Yeah. There's people who talk and there's people who don't talk. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you should give up on them either way. You know what I mean? It's not a case of they keep talking about. We shouldn't listen. We should switch off because they kind of cry wolf a bit. Yeah. There's also the people who don't say anything you're not aware, and so I think it's just important that it's just worth trying something. Yeah. You may not crack it. You may not be able to stop someone taking their life, but it's still, I think, a very worthy and very worthwhile thing to do. Yeah, to at least try and do something.
No, and I 100% know we can do something.
And I'm sat there and almost in the same breath saying, what's the point of holding a placard up? It might do something. Someone might see it and have changed their view, and then they go and do it. I'm not saying action doesn't encourage other action. Yeah. I think we're in a world where the smallest things feel so ineffectual. It becomes really hard to be motivated, doesn't it? Yeah. It becomes hard to kind of comprehend that anyone can do anything positive. But this kind of goes back into the spiral of negativity and bad mental health. But you know what I mean? So just because things don't always turn out right doesn't mean you shouldn't give something a crack.
But I think this is where we've led to this point, because I think this is the key element. My extreme pessimism is that we can't, we're not going to turn over Amazon and Facebook, and we're not going to stop Google spying on us and everything else. And TikTok have come up with some brilliant ones, some fantastic.
You wouldn't want TikTok to go anywhere, would you?
No, some of the things that TikTok have heard me say and then have sent me a video, that they're working overtime, seriously. But the point I want to make, this is a key point, the pessimism that I have about overriding the gargantuan organisations that are ruling this world, it's almost like, I don't mean give up on it, but I do mean give up on it. It's too big. It's like, eating an elephant one bite at a time. We can't do the whole thing. However, I 100% know that we can educate people, point people in the right direction, save at least one life. I 100% know that will happen, because already from a couple of things that have been put out since Lewis's death on social media, people have got back to my daughters and to me. And one person said, I have BDP. I didn't know there was other people out there.
Wow.
My parents refuse to accept that I have it and refuse to let me tell people I have it because of the stigma attached.
Wow.
So basically, no one knows, and I'm not going to therapy. And they posted it and took it off. They unsent it on Instagram.
Because people saw it?
Yeah. No, it was a direct message.
Oh, okay.
It was a direct message to one of my daughters.
Right.
And she happened to see the name before it was unsent and went back and went, you've taken it off. Why have you taken it off? I read it. And then they had some dialogue.
Wow.
So straight away, there is some person there, I think she was about 18 or 19, struggling and suddenly realizing when we posted something about this, that there was that. I think Amelia had 5 or 6 people of some.
Yeah, we mentioned there was a surprising response.
Yeah. So I know 100%. So what I'm going to do...
It's probably not unsurprising when you look at the stats.
Yeah. They reckon about 1% of people have BDP, but it's probably higher. But so the point I'm saying is 100%. I'm as optimistic as we can be. I totally believe that if we handle this correctly and we interact with people and we get people spreading the word, this will make a massive difference. And I think it was just something that I posted on Insta Story, and I took this from Lewis's Instagram. And I just thought this backs up totally what we've been saying about the ask twice thing about, he said, in this world, there are 2 types of friends, the ones who say, call me anytime, and the ones who hunt you the fuck down. And I thought, that's exactly what we're doing. We're hunting everyone down now and going, listen to this, learn from this, look at yourself, look at your friends, and ensure that you're best equipped to help those around you. Whether it's with BDP or other personality disorders or other suffering, I think if we can raise awareness, then we're going to save lives.
That's it for this episode. Well done for getting this far, and thanks for listening. Give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter at I'mFinecast, and send your feedback and ideas to imfinecast@gmail.com. Don't forget to give us a 5-star review if on Apple Podcasts, and tell a friend or 2. So in the next episodes we've just been talking, we're going to get stuck in, aren't we?
The other thing, I don't know whether this is worth saying very, very quickly, is that, and obviously we're not practitioners, medical practitioners. If anyone is listening to this and go, I don't know what you're talking about, or I've heard something similar, or someone in my life has this. I mean, it's really hard to go, drop us a line. But I think that offer has to be there. If someone just wants to DM us, obviously you can remain anonymous, but it might just be if someone just asks the question, can you tell me a good website to read, or can you tell me experiences of people that have PD? I think if people want to direct message us,
definitely,
then totally do that.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so take care, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah, take care.
Cheers, bye.